If you own a home with a mortgage, there is one question you really should know the answer to. What happens to that mortgage when you die? Does the bank automatically take the house? Does your family have to come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight? Can your spouse just keep making the payments? I hear these questions all the time, and honestly, I'm glad when people ask because there is so much misinformation out there. In fact, I once had a client come into my office who was convinced that if her husband passed away before the mortgage was paid off, the bank would automatically take the home. She wasn't worried about who would inherit the house. She was worried they wouldn't even have a chance to keep it. That fear is a lot more common than you might think. The good news is that in most situations, that's not how it works, but there are some important things you and your family need to understand because making the wrong assumptions after someone dies can create unnecessary stress, missed payments, and sometimes it could even lead to foreclosure that could have been avoided. If we haven't met before, I'm attorney Unique Otto. I'm a Florida estate planning attorney, and every week I answer real questions that I hear from real Florida families. My goal is not to just explain the law, it's to help you understand how these rules affect your life and the people that you love. So let's start by clearing up the biggest misconception. A lot of people think one of two things happens when someone dies. They either believe the mortgage disappears or they believe the bank immediately takes the house. Neither one is true. Here's what I tell my clients. A mortgage is a loan. So when someone dies, the loan doesn't magically disappear. Instead, the lender is still owed the money that they loaned to purchase the property. So yes, the mortgage still exists. But here's the part that surprises a lot of people. Just because someone dies does not automatically mean the bank can tell your family, pay us the entire balance tomorrow or we're going to take the house. In many situations, federal law actually provides protections that allow certain family members who inherit the property to continue making the existing mortgage payments instead of immediately paying off the loan. And that's why it's so important not to panic or assume the worst before understanding your family's specific situation. Now, every case is different, whether there is a surviving spouse, whether the property is in a trust, whether it has to go through probate, and how the property is titled. These things can all affect what happens next. That's one of the reasons that estate planning is so much more than just signing a will or a trust. It's about creating a roadmap so that your family knows what to do when they need it most. So let me give you another example. Imagine a husband passed away unexpectedly. His wife is grieving. The children are helping to plan the funeral. Everyone is exhausted, emotionally, physically overwhelmed. And then the mortgage company, they send a statement. It shows up in the mail and someone in the family says, well, should we even make this payment? Isn't the bank just going to take the house anyway? And everyone is ultimately confused. They are not sure whether they should call the lender. Do they stop making payments altogether? Can someone even talk to the mortgage company because the person who took out the mortgage has passed away? Who has the legal authority to make decisions? Those are real questions that real families face. And unfortunately, I have seen situations where the biggest problems didn't happen because someone died. They happened because nobody knew what to do next. Payments got missed, insurance was not renewed, important mail sat unopened. No one contacted the lender because everyone assumed someone else was taking care of it. Before long, what started as a manageable situation became something much, much bigger. And that's why I always tell my clients, again, estate planning isn't just about deciding who gets your house. It's about making sure someone has the legal authority and the practical information they need to keep everything moving while your family is grieving. Now, one question I hear is, Attorney Otto, if my children inherit my home, do they have to refinance the mortgage? The honest answer is that it depends. Every family's circumstances are different. And that's why I always caution people against relying on advice that they find on Facebook or in a comment or something that their neighbor may have told them. I've had people that come into my office literally convinced they knew exactly how something would work because a relative went through something similar and that's how it worked for them. But when we looked at the actual facts, their situation was different for a variety of reasons. And that's why estate planning, it can never be a one-size-fits-all approach. I always tell people that the internet is a wonderful place to learn general information, just like you're doing today. But your family's plan should be based on your family's specifics, your family's goals, assets, your family's circumstances, and not someone else's. And that brings me to something I think is really important. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is focusing only on who gets the house, instead of asking the bigger question, how is this actually going to work? You see, those two are very different questions. It's one thing to say, I want my daughter to inherit my home. It's another thing entirely to make sure she knows what to do when that day comes. Does she know where your estate planning documents are? Does she know who your attorney is? Does she know who to call at the mortgage company if she has questions? Does she know whether the home is owned jointly or individually or through a trust? Those details may not seem very exciting today, but they can make an enormous difference during one of the hardest times in your family's life. I remember another client asked me once, Attorney Otto, should I just pay off the mortgage so my kids don't have to deal with it after I'm gone? And that's actually a really thoughtful question. And my answer is really, it depends. Maybe, but not necessarily. Sometimes paying off the mortgage makes sense. Sometimes keeping the mortgage and investing your money elsewhere makes better financial sense. So this is, again, one of those situations that there isn't one right answer for every family. And that's why I always encourage my clients to look at the bigger picture instead of making decisions just based on fear. One thing I've learned after practicing estate planning law for a number of years is that fear is rarely a good financial planner. Knowledge is a good planner. Planning is a good way to financially plan, actually thinking about it and making a plan, not based on fear. Having honest conversations with your family, very important. Those are the things that make the biggest difference. And can I give you just one piece of advice? Don't wait until there's a crisis to figure it all out. I have never had someone sit across from me and say, I really regret doing my estate plan so early. I wish I had waited longer. But I have met with families who wished that they had started the conversation months or even years earlier. Not because they wanted more legal documents, because they wanted more peace of mind. One conversation today can save your family countless hours of confusion later. One properly prepared estate plan can prevent disagreements between siblings. One simple review of how your home is titled could save your loved ones time, money, and unnecessary stress. Those are the things we think about every day in my office. So what should you do if you own a home with a mortgage? First, you want to make sure that you actually have an estate plan. And when I say estate plan, I don't mean just a stack of papers sitting in a drawer. I mean a plan that's designed around your goals and your family. Second, review how your home is owned. How is it titled? The way that your property is titled can have a significant impact on what happens after death. And third, make sure someone you trust knows where your important documents are. It doesn't help to have a beautifully prepared estate plan if no one can find it when it's needed. And finally, don't be afraid to ask questions. Some of the smartest and the best clients that I have worked with are the ones who are curious. They ask a lot of questions. They want to understand. They want to make informed decisions. And that's exactly what they should do. The bottom line is this: your mortgage doesn't simply disappear when you die, but that doesn't automatically mean your family loses the house either. There are laws that protect many families that are planning strategies, or there are planning strategies, I should say, that can make the process much smoother. And there are steps that you can take today to make life much easier for the people you love tomorrow. If this video answered one of your questions, I would really appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who owns a home. My goal is to help as many Florida families as possible make informed decisions before a crisis happens instead of during one. And if you've ever wondered what happens to your car when you died, stay tuned for my next video because the answer surprises a lot of people and it's another question I hear all the time. Until then, plan wisely, live confidently, and I'll see you next time.